The stress of being a minister and the experience of being hospitalized for a month is must be very shocking for Therese Coffey, and the symptoms that she experienced and the demands of the job. And it's interesting to hear how she how she had to live in the moment, give up the job of being a minister, and so on. You know, maybe she should have done that earlier. She talks about having suspicions that there was something wrong in 2018, and and at the same time having tests and realizing that something was badly wrong. She can always tell, she says, because she didn't eat, because she dragged herself out to vote and couldn't remember exactly where she lived. Yes, stress is not a good thing to live with. But equally, we have to find ways to ensure that we have a political system in our country that can work effectively. Now, in the past, that system was based on the cooperation, the integration of the full-time civil service with the amateurish investment of ministers arriving on the job, being briefed, and taking responsibility for what civil servants do. And that clearly is not working anymore. When you have this mammoth change in the system, such as Brexit, this is a bigger change, oddly, I would say, than going into Europe in the 1970s. Leaving this divorce is, by very definition, a stressful experience, and one that we should have done everything we could either to anticipate or avoid, and we did neither. The civil service doesn't seem to have drawn up a clear plan. Ministers didn't quite know what they were doing, and this is a recipe for monumental stress. We shouldn't be surprised that we've had a chain of utterly imbecilic prime ministers and a chain of ideological and intensely driven individuals as secretaries of state who don't really know what they're doing and who want to micromanage and bully and push people around. Because in the end, when the system collapses, people either retreat into hospital or they retreat into a sort of dictatorial control, a sort of authoritarianism. And that's exactly what we've got. And a lot of rhetoric. What we actually need to do is calm down and start using the systems, the very good systems that we've got already. So rather than rubbing our hands with glee, as I'm sure some ministers, particularly those ministers who fled to GB News and Talk TV, rather than rubbing our hands with glee at the thought that civil servants might be retiring because they can't take it any longer, we should be using that civil service knowledge base to actively plug the holes and sort out the problems that we've got at the moment. And we can't turn the clock back. We have to deal with what we've got. We have to play the hand we've been dealt. And we might say repeatedly, that's not what I would have wanted. It may not be what you would have wanted. But politics and government is about events, dear boy. It's not about ambitions or ideology. It's about dealing with events. And one of the events that we have to deal with is Brexit. And pretending that is not the problem, pretending that the problem is Ukraine or is the cost of living, well, all you have to do is look at other countries across Europe who have recovered for the most part, and yet they're still facing the problems of Ukraine and the cost of living. But they don't have to deal with the chaos the daily chaos that we encounter in the UK because of Brexit. The anxiety over health, the anxiety over finance, the anxiety over cost of living, which is still a crisis in this country. It's not a crisis across much of Europe any longer. Why can we not get our act together? Because we have too many people not trusting the people who know what they're doing. And when a minister runs roughshod over the full-time civil service, when a minister can be accused in public of bullying, and Priti Patel was not the only one, then I think we have a major problem, because we are failing to use the skill set that we have spent 200 odd years building up. We are ditching the whole thing for some sort of ideology, and it takes years to re-establish a system after such a revolution. We saw the effects of the French Revolution. We saw the effects of the revolution in the Catholic Church in the 1960s. Only now is it beginning in a very wobbly way to find its feet. 40 years. And Rees-Mogg has quite rightly made that prediction, that it could take 40 years before we're back on our feet. And yet, that's barely the length of time that we were in Europe in the first place. A disaster. And it's not made any better by questioning the full-time staff, by questioning the people who really know what they're doing and who have the commitment to do the work. As the Greeks would say, Tina kaname.